In this video, I'm going to give you 3 secrets to getting straight A's in nursing school or any professional school for that matter. I'm Will Martin. I've been a nursing professor, a nurse practitioner, and a few other things over the past 40 years. And in that time, I've learned a few things about a lot of different things. And right now, I'm going to share 3 absolute solid hacks to getting excellent grades in school, especially professional schools like nursing school. Now, these might be different from what you've heard from other folks. What they say is probably very valid as well, but these are different things from my own perspective. So here goes. Number 1, on the first day of class, sit in the front row. Do this every time, every day without fail. Even if you're the ultra shy type that says, Will, I can't possibly sit in the front. I'm too self-conscious. Or, Will, I'm farsighted and I need to sit in the back. Or whatever the excuse might be, don't do it. If you're farsighted, get the vision corrected. Just sit in the front, not in the second row, and not on kind of like the edges on the front row. Sit dead center in the front, right where the professor is most likely to be teaching from. And here's why I recommend this. First, you're going to lose all distractions if you're sitting in the front. You have no one else to look at if you're in the front. You can't admire someone else's clothes or shoes or whatever. You can't get on your phone and lose yourself in social media. You have to be present, involved, and you can't drift off into space if you're sitting right in the front row. I had a professor tell me once a long time ago that on the first day of class, as he looked at us sitting in the chairs, he said, well, here in the front, these are the A students, pointing right to the front row. Next row, he said, those are the B students, the C students, the D, and so on, until he got to the back of the room where I was sitting and proclaimed that most of us in the back would be dropping out by mid-semester. And you know, he was pretty darn right. I didn't drop out, but I also took his advice and I sat in the front row in every class after his on that first day of school. And he was so right, because after you get used to sitting in the front, you feel like you're almost being tutored one-on-one by the professor. And believe me, as a professor myself, we notice who sits in the front and who sits in the back. It's a natural bias because we all assume that those sitting in the front really want to be there to learn, while those that are sitting in the back simply want to coast or hide or daydream or whatever. And trust me, if you think that sitting in the back makes you invisible, it does not. So fight for that front row at every opportunity. It'll totally change your academic life, trust me. Okay, the second surefire hack is this, and it may seem pretty old school to a lot of you, but it works. Record your class. Now, back when I was really struggling to become a good student, I noticed that many of the students around me were putting their little cassette recorders on the desk, and I realized it might just be a good idea maybe to record the class. So I went out and I bought, this is the 1980s, so I bought a regular cassette, not some huge cassette player, but, a little cassette, like a Walkman sort of thing. So it wasn't really big. And I bet I still have that recorder around somewhere, so I'm going to have to look for it. But anyway, it became the norm to record lectures in class. Now, of course, today you have your phone to record, but I've heard that, interestingly, teachers are now getting kind of freaked out a bit by students recording in class. I mean, my daughter, who just graduated from high school, said most of her teachers refuse to allow students to record anything in class. I find that kind of interesting. It makes me wonder what type of lectures or classroom conversations take place that are so private that they can't be recorded. But despite this, you can record and just not make it obvious. I mean, it just makes sense that if you're paying for the class, you have the right to record the lecture that you're paying for. So if you have to, be stealthy. But believe me, listening to the lecture again later on when you're studying will prompt thoughts that might help you focus your studying more effectively, might trigger some memory of what went on in class. The final hack that I think is the most important is also, again, probably old school, but it got me through my PhD program and even my DNP, and that is to befriend your classmates. For my PhD, we started a private Facebook group where we could all share our issues, questions, problems, or whatever. And whenever possible, study together and bounce things off of one another. It's so much easier to attack a class issue as a group than as a loner. And you probably heard this a million times, but if you have a question about something and you don't understand it, chances are 100% that somebody else is going to have that same question. You'll find that if you're in a group and you're attacking things as a group, you're going to quickly gain so much from your classmates. And here's where I want to say one thing about online programs. Today, as you know, there's a ton of online programs for just about everything. That's understandable. I mean, it allows people to carry on normal lives while working and going to school. But I believe that you're really missing out on so much by not having that face-to-face interaction with your cohort if you're fully online. If there's any way that you can meet at a mutually agreed upon location on a regular basis, it's going to pay off in big ways. So even if it means driving a couple hours to meet for a study session, it's worth it. If you can enroll in a face-to-face program or an immersion program where your cohort meets, for example, like I did, for a block of days each semester, that's pretty good. Just join forces with your cohort, get to know one another, and you'll probably win some lifelong friends by doing so. Now, as a bonus, I'm going to give you one additional tip that will make you a success, not only in the classroom, but just about anywhere, whether it be at work, at the gym, wherever. And here's the tip. Find your benchmark. What do I mean by that? A benchmark is a standard that you want to achieve. It's a goal that may seem a little bit out of reach, but with hard work and dedication, you might just achieve it. It requires a little bit of competitive spirit within yourself, but only you really need to know about this benchmark thing. Now, I'm talking about identifying one person, like, for example, a work colleague, a student colleague, maybe somebody at the gym. You start by looking around and identifying that person who's really crushing it, that person who is showing up and performing. You identify that person, but there's no need to let them in on the secret. In fact, it's probably better if your benchmark doesn't know that they've been designated as such. Just watch how they study, what kind of grades they're getting, if it's possible. And I know it might seem, kind of creepy, but let's face it, humans are built for competition. And without it, it's hard to find that motivation to win. Now, I'm not suggesting you become, the stalker type, but if necessary, befriend the person and tell them you admire their study ethic, their work ethic, professionalism, accomplishments, whatever it might be. I hope you get my point. Life is about competition, like it or not. And if you're studying to be a professional, you want to be the best professional you can be, which means you might benefit from measuring how you stack up against the others around you. I hope this video has been helpful in some way, and if you found it so, please help the channel by subscribing to it and giving the video a like, and I'll talk to you again soon.